Imagine holding something so ordinary that you barely notice it today. It sits on your table, hides in your kitchen cabinet, and costs almost nothing. Now imagine that same substance being so valuable that wars are fought over it, roads are built for it, workers are paid with it, and empires rise and fall because of it. This is the era when salt outpriced gold, a time when a simple mineral controlled human survival, power, and destiny. Long before modern refrigeration, long before supermarkets and global trade, humanity faced a brutal reality. Food did not last. Meat rotted, fish spoiled, crops failed. Winter meant starvation. Salt was not just seasoning, it was life itself. Salt preserved food, allowing people to store meat for months and survive harsh winters. Without salt, armies could not march, cities could not grow, and civilizations could not expand. Gold might shine, but salt kept people alive. In ancient times, salt was so essential that its absence could destroy entire communities. Societies that controlled salt sources held immense power. Natural salt deposits were rare and unevenly distributed across the world. Some regions were blessed with salt mines, salt lakes, or coastal evaporation pools, while others had none at all. This imbalance created trade routes long before silk or spices ever entered the picture. Salt roads became the arteries of civilization. The Roman Empire understood this better than anyone. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt or given salt allowances, a practice that gave birth to the word salary. Salt was not a luxury for Rome. It was a strategic resource. Roman roads were often built specifically to transport salt from coastal areas to inland cities. One of the most famous roads, the Via Salaria, literally means salt road. Rome's military dominance depended on feeding massive armies, and salt was the backbone of that system. But Rome was not alone. In ancient China, salt was considered a state-controlled treasure. Chinese rulers realized early that whoever controlled salt controlled the people. The government imposed strict monopolies on salt production and trade, generating enormous revenue. In some dynasties, salt taxes funded armies, public works, and imperial palaces. Smuggling salt was punishable by death, yet people risked everything because salt was indispensable. Gold could buy luxury, but salt guaranteed survival. In Africa, salt was worth its weight in gold, sometimes even more. Across the Sahara Desert, salt caravans traveled hundreds of miles through deadly terrain. Massive slabs of salt were mined from places like Tagaza and carried by camel caravans to trading cities such as Timbuktu. There, salt was exchanged for gold, sometimes at equal weight. Imagine that, a block of white salt traded for a block of glittering gold. In regions where salt was scarce, but gold was abundant, salt became the true currency of power. The danger of transporting salt only increased its value. Caravans faced scorching heat, sandstorms, bandits, and exhaustion. Many never completed the journey. Yet the demand was so high that traders continued, generation after generation. Salt preserved food in tropical climates where decay was rapid. Without it, entire populations would starve. In this context, salt was not cheaper than gold. It was priceless. In medieval Europe, salt shaped economies and politics. Kings imposed heavy salt taxes, knowing people had no choice but to pay. One of the most infamous examples was the gabelle in France, a brutal salt tax that caused widespread suffering. Peasants were forced to buy a fixed amount of salt at inflated prices, even if they didn't need it. Smuggling salt became an act of rebellion. Many historians believe the resentment caused by the salt tax contributed directly to the French Revolution. When people say a small thing can change history, salt is proof. Salt's power extended beyond economics into religion and culture. In many ancient societies, salt symbolized purity, loyalty, and divine protection. Sharing salt was a sacred act, a sign of trust and friendship. Breaking bread and salt together meant forming an unbreakable bond. Even today, phrases like, "worth one's salt," echo this ancient respect. These expressions survive because salt once defined human value. Gold dazzled the eyes, but salt ruled the body. A human can survive weeks without food, but only days without sodium. Salt regulates nerves, muscles, and hydration. Ancient people may not have understood the chemistry, but they understood the consequences. Salt deficiency led to weakness, illness, and death. Entire armies collapsed due to lack of salt. Battles were lost not because of poor strategy, but because supply lines failed to deliver this essential mineral. Empires rose where salt was abundant. The Austrian city of Salzburg literally means salt fortress. Its wealth came from nearby salt mines that operated for thousands of years. The Habsburg dynasty drew enormous power from salt revenues. The mines were so valuable that they were guarded like royal treasure vaults. Salt was white gold, and it built castles, funded wars, and shaped borders. In India, salt played a crucial role in both ancient and modern history. Coastal communities depended on salt harvesting, while inland regions relied on trade. Centuries later, during British colonial rule, salt again became a symbol of control. The British imposed strict laws banning Indians from collecting their own salt, forcing them to buy heavily taxed British salt instead. This injustice sparked one of the most famous acts of civil disobedience in history, the Salt March led by Mahatma Gandhi. By simply walking to the sea and making salt, Gandhi challenged an empire. That single act showed the world that even the smallest substance could ignite massive change. The true value of salt lay in its universality. Gold was rare and desired, but not everyone needed it. Salt was needed by everyone, every day. Kings could hoard gold, but they could not survive without salt. This made salt both powerful and dangerous. Control it, and you controlled life. Lose it, and everything fell apart. As technology advanced, salt gradually lost its dominance. Refrigeration, canning, and global shipping reduced the need for massive salt preservation. New mining techniques made salt abundant and cheap. What was once guarded like treasure became something spilled without concern. Today, salt is everywhere, so common that its historical importance feels almost unbelievable. Yet its legacy remains carved into our language, our roads, our borders, and our revolutions. Every time you season your food, you're touching a substance that once decided the fate of civilizations. Every grain carries the memory of ancient caravans, Roman legions, African traders, and rebellious peasants. The era when salt outpriced gold reminds us of a powerful truth: value is not fixed. It changes with human needs. What we overlook today may have once been the foundation of the world. Salt was never just a mineral. It was survival, power, and control. And for thousands of years, it ruled humanity more completely than gold ever could. So the next time you reach for salt without thinking, remember this: you are holding what was once the most valuable substance on earth.